Welcome to Playful Beginnings, a podcast about the magic of play therapy for therapists, students, and anyone interested. In our podcast, we'll explore the deeper understanding of play therapy and the skills we use when working with children.
We hope to help you understand the why behind what we do and how it helps kids heal and grow. I'm Dr. Kristie Opiola, a working play therapist and university professor in North Carolina.
I'm Dr. Maggie Parker, a play therapist and professor in DC. Hi, Kristie. Sorry, I started recording as I started coughing.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
I am good.
We are both survived the snow apocalypse of the start of 2026. And so I hope our audience is safe. I know you'll listen to this after the storm has happened, but we record a little before it gets posted so we can edit. But we hope everyone is safe, staying warm, hopefully have electricity.
It's a lot.
And not a lot of damage to your property. So
yeah. I hope that you guys are, that electricity is still happening. That I know it's hard, especially if you're in a practice, to not be able to see your kiddos for a while in session or balancing how you handle those with if you have your own children at home or you have spotty internet. It's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot, but it's so funny because I think it really leads into our topic for today too. I was thinking this morning and yesterday, I was kind of prepping for the podcast today about our topic right now that we're on is anxiety and how, depending on experience and depending on different life exposure, right? These storms may be very anxiety producing, especially as everything you see on the channel is calling for the worst case scenarios and like what we need to prep for. It's very doomsday. And if our kids' nervous systems are already, activated, that this could really heighten their sense of anxiety.
Yeah.
And the other thing I was thinking of, which is one of the topics we're talking about today, is there's just some age groups that are more anxious in general.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it goes to the holidays too, right? Is that, yay, it's snow day, we don't have school, but also that means there's no structure. My kids are like, I want Cheetos for breakfast. I'm like, sure. Oh, you want to make cookies at 7 p.m.? Why not?
Right. You don't have school tomorrow. We don't have to get up on a routine.
It's but then it's also confusing because mom and dad have work today. Yeah. And so it's a fun day for them, but we can't help them. And, it's a lot. It's a lot. So
it is, but it also means that, not that this is happening at your house, Maggie, but for maybe some families, just having to get online, working around the conditions and other stuff. Or I think my mom's a teacher. She talks about this a lot since COVID, about how we just automatically jump things to online, which then pulls, requires full focus. But if we go back and historically think about what snow days were about, it was about prepping yourself to be able to get back into the office. So, you're saying you and your partner are working today, right? Well, who's shoveling your driveway to get you prepped to be able to go out tomorrow? Who is, these other components that are equally as important that you're now don't have the ability to do, or you're having to add on to a full workday, which just makes it more stressful for parents, which means that parents are more stressed, kids are more stressed because, right, our mirror neurons are firing and activating mad all the time. And so if the kid was already slightly anxious and now you have really anxious parents, now we've got a really anxious kid like living at home. It's just a interesting.
It's a lot. And especially,
I think to think about.
And it's also a very privileged conversation of if you have a job where you don't have to go in, right? There are others that children are anxious because caregivers are going in, or
for a long time my career was as a first responder. I never got a snow day.
Yeah.
I remember we had this awful snowstorm, and they were like, do not get on the roads. It was just pure ice. And my boss called me. She's like, you're from the north. I'll see you here at regular time. And I was like, oh, no, I don't do ice. Hold up.
We're from Virginia. That's not how.
Yeah, well, but I did grow up in New Jersey. I went to school.
That's right.
I did, right? But I wasn't responsible for plowing driveways and other stuff or watching the street.
Right.
Or I didn't even have a car when I lived in Boston because I used public transportation.
You lived in Boston.
Yeah.
This is a whole new thing for me.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
It's okay. But
or spending the night, right? Our friends spent the night at the hospital because she's a nurse
And she
and
had to work
have to
today,
be
and she's
there.
the first responder, and she doesn't get the day off because people still get sick and people need to be cared for.
Yeah. So a
Um,
lot of reason for anxiety, right? This is
yeah.
just, it's not a normal time. And
Mm-mm.
it's a big swath in addition to all of the other things that are happening in our country. So it
That was,
would
and all
make
the things I
sense.
see on the news. Everyone, I think it's a little heightened.
We're a little heightened right now.
Yeah.
So, and this is going to play out differently based upon the age of the child, right?
Yeah.
And so I think like I feel bad because I'm probably heightened right now, as you guys can tell, right? And trying to regulate my own nervous system. And so we had this idea of talking about anxiety in general, and we've kind of talked about how anxiety is in this moment. So I want to veer us back to anxiety in general, or veer myself back. Kristie, you did not veer us. This is me. But
No, no, no. I was just waiting to see where you were going, Maggie. I was, what are we talking about? I thought we had a plan.
nope, let's go back to what the plan was. I feel like I deviated from the plan
Okay.
because I'm anxious. Let's go back to the plan.
No, we were just, I brought it up because I was just saying that kids right now could be heightened. And it's funny, this is our topic today,
Yes.
as we've had this big event where I think we were all heightened in preparation and preparing. And, yeah, but
Okay. Thank
so
you.
today we're talking about developmental differences for how anxiety may show up throughout the lifespan, in particular in kids that we would see in play therapy.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about it, right? And I'm going to go from our traditional age groups that we see. So I know some people see infants and toddlers, but traditionally in play therapy, we start about 2.5, 3, seeing kids, right? And so what might anxiety look like for this age group? That's that 3 to 6 age group, early childhood, right? Is in particular for our 3-year-olds, we might see some separation anxiety. So being able to leave their primary caregiver to go with this random stranger in a playroom, even if they see you weekly. Remember, a week is a lifetime to a child. So it may take a while before they feel like they have built safety with you in the play space. So this may play out for a while with kiddos that you're working with and trying to build a relationship with, which
And
will slow the process down of therapy, right? Because until they feel safe, they're not going to be vulnerable and open up and work on the things that they need to in the play therapy space.
yeah, and I think it can be really, I don't know if we want to talk about this now, so you can tell me to stop. But when you're in the playroom, it can look different ways, and sometimes it requires flexibility.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think a lot of times it's no, don't let parents in, but I'm also not going to force a child who is so dysregulated to be, nope, I'm not going to like yank you away from your caregiver.
Oh, I think that's actually more harmful than helpful.
1,000%. And it
Yeah.
was something that I remember experiencing for the first time in a very real way with this child. Usually parents would say there's some separation anxiety, and I'm okay, but kids always were so excited to go. They were just pumped. And this was the first time that a child was sobbing and physically shaking, having a very visceral reaction. And in my mind, I was, well, I don't know. The book says I shouldn't let the parent in. And I was like, okay. And I overrid that really, I had trusted my intuition. And after the second session, and I had prepped mom, we had talked about what this would look like. And by the second time, they were fine. But had I gone in and been so strict and put what I thought the book said over the relationship and the needs of that child, it would have been really hurtful, I think. So there's flexibility.
Yeah. Yeah. I think using our clinical judgment is a really important responsibility within CCPT.
Yes.
The book is your guide. It's not it's a guide. It's not a set of rules,
Right.
right? Because we have to be thoughtful about the needs of each of our clients.
Yes. I think
Yeah.
that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. Also for this age group are things they have really good imaginations,
Hmm.
right? So they sometimes have these intense fears about imaginary threats, monsters under the bed. I'm trying to think of some of the other really good ones. That's probably the most common one that
Yeah.
I hear or have worked with.
I think more of my childhood, maybe yours too. Quicksand was something that I was very scared of.
Oh, I don't think I was ever exposed to the idea of quicksand, so I don't know that that was something that even crossed my path.
Yeah. It felt like a real threat, but that was not a real threat.
I'm trying to think of what
Monsters,
monsters, and I don't remember having a fear of monsters, but I've worked with a lot of kids who have these fear of monsters.
monsters
Uh,
under the bed, monsters in the closet. It's hard to think of what other imaginary. You're
I
right.
know that's the only thing that's stuck in my head right now. I know
Yeah.
there are more. That's
You
probably
can
the
write
most
in and
common
tell
one.
us more.
Yeah, yeah, text us or tell us in the comments below what are those other fears that you've had in the playroom.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a kiddo who was afraid of certain color foods, which was
Oh, yeah.
interesting,
Or textured
or
foods.
texture foods.
Hmm.
And that could be a lot of different things. That could be some sensory issues, but this was purely a color based. It didn't matter the texture.
No, no, not happening.
So also an imaginary threat. Yellow things are not out in the world to harm you, just to let you know.
Bananas are safe.
Maggie, in case you were worried, yellow things will not harm you.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Thank you. I feel safe already. It's amazing just talking to you and laughing with you how my regulation has mirrored what
Yeah.
I feel much calmer.
Yeah. No, this kid was afraid of everything yellow that you would eat, even if it came, so he would not drink lemonade because the bottle was yellow. Or at the time, one of the milk cartons was yellow, so he wouldn't drink that level of like milk. No, he would drink any other color of milk, just not the yellow
Right.
one.
Right.
And so you never know. And he
You
was right
don't.
in this age
And it
group. He
makes
was
sense in their little minds.
almost 5. Yeah. And so working with that and how that shows up and the anxiety and how you would respond to that in the playroom. Some of the other things that come up in the playroom, I think, are more behavioral kind of responses to their anxiety. So I'm thinking of regression. So kids who all of a sudden are regressing to previous behaviors out of the level of stress they're experiencing. So that may be with toilet training, that may be with no sucking their thumb again, or having difficulty sleeping, or going back to old, patterns that were at a time where they felt safer, as well as temper tantrums, sometimes heighten at this age, especially in response to anxiety and fear. And so and they're, that anxiety lives out in their bodies. And then some of the things we'll see in the playroom for this 3 to 6 year old are like different themes around danger,
Mhm.
rescuing, right? Or a particular kind of vulnerability that they're experiencing. They may play that out in the playroom. For instance, I had a kiddo who has a food allergy, one of those severe food allergy that would go into anaphylactic shock. And when they were on vacation, they ate something that had the thing that they were allergic to and had an allergic reaction and had to go to the emergency department on vacation.
Yeah, that's so
And
scary.
we played that out
Yeah.
and so uniquely played that out where I would get transferred to the location where she was on vacation. And she would stay right safely in our city and in the playroom, but I would get transferred. And then the fear of me never making it back. So it was very metaphorically played out for her in the playroom, this vulnerability of, right, I could get sick at any moment. And this client is very hyper aware of their allergy and is a very good, her family has done a really good job of helping her to know how to navigate the world so that she does not intake this allergy. And, I don't think the food was very well labeled or whatever, but, things do happen when you have severe allergies. And so it was also, she played out a lot of that, you know, you have to read the containers. You have, all the things that she had been trained came up within the therapy process to learn how to better manage that.
Yeah, I've seen a lot with rescue superheroes and bad guys and
Yeah.
that process play out weekly with high
Or
anxiety.
big threats,
Mhm.
right? Doing everything they can to prevent a threat,
Yep.
but the threat still gets played out in the play space
Yeah.
and all that they do, to protect themselves
Mhm.
or even sometimes all the things that they can't do to protect themselves and how that plays out. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's kind of, I would say, the key things we see in 3 to 6 year olds. If you guys see anything else, let us know.
Yeah.
But we do want to highlight like the main things that we see in this age group. We cannot cover everything, or every podcast would be hours long, right? So we're trying to give a quick overview of these age groups. And so just remember in this age group, 3 to 6, right? Anxiety lives in their bodies and they play it out in the playroom, which is delightful for us because we really get to see what that looks like. Part of that is they use a lot of metaphor, and remember, their cognitive capacity is still developing, so they don't have the ability to fully think abstractly or even tackle abstraction yet,
Yeah.
right? So they're giving you specific examples of how things are happening, or metaphorically how they are experiencing this within relationships or in their experiences at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then as you kind of move on to that middle childhood, so between, I would say even sometimes starting six or seven to about 11, this is when kids are starting to kind of separate a little bit from their parents and focus more on their peers. There can be a lot of peer comparison and social comparison in this moment. So they're looking at who has what and how they compare, and if they're, whether it be, athletics or academics, they're starting to compare themselves to their peers in this way. And so that can create some anxiety. I see a lot in the area that we are, or that I am in, a lot performance anxiety, perfectionism, wanting to be really good at something, meltdowns and breaking down if they think they make a mistake or they've done something wrong. These are the things their parents or caregivers or teachers might be telling me that are happening. Giving up if they don't immediately know the answer, or kind of withdrawing in that academic space. A lot more conversations about worrying. I'm worried about this, and a lot more like tummy aches or anxiety about going to school or in school. I
Like
think,
somatic type things.
yeah. And I see this really play out in the playroom in some really interesting ways. Sorry, guys, I'm sick. But a lot of what I would kind of identify as mastery play, where they're repeating tasks over and over and over and over again and challenging themselves to see how often they can do it, and how, whether it's how many times can I hit a ball with a bat, or how many, can I hit the blocks over with this dart gun. A lot of just trying to look at capacity, but also what I'm really focusing on in those moments is their determination, and that they're keeping going as opposed to giving up. Because I think a lot of times when that social comparison and that avoidance comes in, what we hope within the relationship is that they gain some self-confidence in their capacity and their ability to try hard, and then that worth is not reliant on whether or not they can complete a task.
Right.
So I'm really focusing in on and that those returning of responsibility, the frustration tolerance, the determination, and really helping. You're really focused.
Choice giving and
Lots
like,
of that.
and maybe some limit setting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to watch it play out. It's really kind of neat. Even, it's just things that are really hard and not very much, there's not a skill to it, right? I don't know if you're using we had a cricket bat, so it has a triangle kind of, and it's very hard to hit a ball up and down that. And yet that was what we were getting, it's over. Can we get it 20 times? Can we get it 30 times? And that was just really, really important. And we, week after week after week after week, watching it play out.
Yeah, I see that, or in some of the kiddos that I've seen, the perfectionism or performance anxiety really showing up. In some ways that I've seen it shown up in the playroom, especially for these younger 6, 7, 8 year olds, is needing to master it before they
Yes.
master it in front of us. So I will see them use the puppet theater or a tent or some environment in the playroom where the therapist can't see what's happening, right? And mastering it before they're able to really show it to us in the playroom. And some of the places I've seen this play out for me in supervision and other places is the therapist not honoring that need. And so what they'll do is they'll move their body in space to get closer to, which then increases that internal anxiety for the client, right? And then they either give up altogether and won't practice it, or right, their anxiety will be impacted and it will continue in the playroom, where then it becomes a power struggle, or then picking up moving somewhere else and the therapist feeling the need to go around.
Yes, I'm really
So
sorry. I'm getting a text message from a parent who's at our house right now, but it's picking up everything that you're saying into my text message to this mom. I'm
living out in person,
like, wait, hold on.
you're, hey, talk to my friend.
Yeah. Would you like to know about anxiety in the playroom? Because this is what we're discussing. Also, is your child allowed to watch this movie? Because that is currently what they're watching. Yes. Yeah. It's all right. We've got it all figured out, but I am distracted.
Good. That's okay. I also got one that my university is closed through tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I'm expecting that very
Well,
shortly.
till 11:30 tomorrow. So right before noon.
Yeah. But then, excuse me, some other things to think about, I think, and I think, Kristie, what you were saying too is so important. And about wanting to honor kids' abilities and their needs to kind of go and master something. I think it's also important to consider too. So you have to watch their cues on that and be very
Yeah.
mindful, because I think we try and make it so that we are in proximity so we can see what they're doing, but we also have to honor that relationship and really hone in on what we're feeling in our bodies, because
Yeah.
mirroring and connecting, how are they feeling in those moments too. I also think it's important because sometimes, I don't know if you've experienced this, but they'll be here, you draw this too, or
That's
you,
what I was thinking of too.
and I want to be really careful, because if I have a perfectionist child who socially compares, are they going to then begin to compare themselves to me? Because that's not quite fair. I've had 42 years of drawing experience as opposed to
Right.
your 8. And I'm not great, but I also don't want to like dumb down myself, because that doesn't feel authentic or genuine. And
Uh,
so really trying to think about, how are you going to handle those moments so that
mhm.
you're not impeding or engaging in a way that would maybe hinder what it is that they're working on. And so just being mindful of those things.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And that's one that, sometimes catches you off guard, but that social comparison, even with you as the therapist, and how that may play out. And right, how that also plays out in the therapist sometimes.
Right, is, and sometimes I'll get focused and then I
Hmm.
stop being focused on the
On the
child.
child. Yeah.
So that takes me out of relationship. And so
Yeah.
it's just a lot of things to consider. And I do think this is why Kristie and I are, yes, there's the book and it's a guideline and it's so helpful and so important. And you gain this clinical awareness and clinical judgment, and the relationship is vital. So I can't give you a hard and fast rule all of the time. Kristie can't be like, this is what you do in CCPT and this is what you don't. There are some of those, but
Well, I think if we go back to those
those,
core conditions that we're supposed to be
that,
providing, right? And
yeah.
I know we've talked about this on the podcast before. We do have to be mindful, right? One thing I really appreciate about Landris' book, The Art of the Relationship, is it'll tell you what the goals of therapy are. And right. And those are really helpful, but those are not all encompassing. And how I was in a workshop this summer with D. Ray about therapeutic progress. And one of the things she said is you need to look at everything as on a spectrum, right? So it'll say self regulation, right? But maybe this child needs co regulation. That's really where their goals are. They actually are overly self reliant and don't know how to be dependent on other people. Right. And so if I look at just the goals of play therapy written in The Art of the Relationship, I'm looking at all of those as a completion point. But if my client already started there, could that also be problematic? Right. And I think this shows up in anxiety a lot. That's why I'm bringing it up. Right. Is if as they're displaying these things, are we really understanding what the need of this child is and how are we looking at that? So, right, if it's messy to clean, if it's self reliant versus some dependency, whatever the goal that we're looking at, right, that we want them, we need to look at what is the ultimate goal for this client and then, right, be able to put that on the spectrum about then guiding our interventions using those core conditions of our own congruence, empathic understanding, and unconditional positive regard or acceptance of the child.
Yeah.
And so,
Agreed. Yep.
yeah.
I think maybe really quickly we can just kind of go through with the older kiddos. I don't think it,
Yeah.
but there's gonna be a lot of social anxiety, a lot of identity-based fears.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to figure out who they are. I think, anxious generation, social media plays a big part into
Mm-hmm.
this. There's a lot of social navigation and inclusion versus exclusion happening. And so I think a lot of times anxiety can center into that. You might see developmentally they start to sleep more, and you may want to
Mm-hmm.
begin with them and try and look like, are they withdrawing from peers? Are they withdrawing from any activities with other people? Are they solely on the computer? Things to kind of think about and trying to draw them out of those, because sleep, yes, and yes, it's developmental, and it can also be a clue that some things aren't going on or some things are going
Mm-hmm.
on. They have a high level of emotional intensity, because that executive functioning is still developing, and that amygdala is firing. his emotions seem to kind of really kind of center within this developmental stage.
And then I think the other thing we have to remember is that they could also be showing some regress
Yeah.
displays of anxiety. So we may see some of the ones we talked about before loop back into this adolescent age frame too, because yeah, there's lots of reasons for that. But sometimes we'll go back to where we feel the safest and reinstate behaviors that worked previously. And so we could see, depending on how well they've managed their anxiety up until adolescence, right, that we could see these earlier behaviors showing up too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, I hope this was helpful. It's
Yes.
hard to go through everything exactly as is. Yeah. Well, thank you, Kristie. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Maggie.
Yeah.
Always love our time together.
Yeah.
Don't forget to join us, right? So go to our website, playtherapyspace.com. You can sign up for our newsletter if you want. We're still working on making our newsletter more consistent. Hang with us on that. And then if you have any questions, please let Maggie and I know. You can send us an email at info@playtherapyspace.com, or you can send it to us personally. You can send one to Maggie at playtherapyspace.com or Kristie at playtherapyspace.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe at whatever podcasting platform that you listen to. It helps us kind of know our target audience and where people are listening from. So we appreciate all of you, and we hope you stay safe, warm, and have a good end to January or whatever month, the beginning of the
Yeah.
next
I
month.
don't
I
even
forget
know
when
what
we
month
post
it is.
this. I know, it's okay.
We'll figure it out. Thank you,
Bye,
guys.
y'all.
Bye.